Here's a good question I wanted to shoot to real quick, and it's probably a question a lot of people ask, because right now a lot of people are going through foreclosure and they're contemplating bankruptcy, and it's which is worse for your credit, foreclosure or bankruptcy? And a lot of people are going to say, well, obviously it's bankruptcy, but it's not. It's not. If you think about it and really get down into what Fair Credit Reporting Act does, you're going to look at it and say, well, wait a minute, what happens in a foreclosure? Well, in a foreclosure, you get a judgment against you. Now, that's a judgment against you. Once people see judgment on a credit report, it's like, OMG, what are we going to do for this person now? They've got a judgment. All a judgment is a piece of paper that says something happened and you may owe money. If you've got a money judgment against you, it says to a creditor, you've got money that you owe. I don't panic when I see a judgment because I want to read what the judgment says. I want to see what the judge ordered. That's the most important part of a judgment. But when creditors see it on a credit report, they go into panicville because like, oh my God, this person with the judgment is going to take our collateral. Or we can't give you credit, you've got a judgment. And when you come to find out, a lot of people don't understand what a judgment is. Now, you take that judgment, what can it do with the judgment? Well, if the judgment's filed in the public records, it can stay out there for about 10 years under Florida law, and then they can actually re-up it for another 10. Let's say I took that debt and I put it into a bankruptcy. Worst case scenario, you're going to be in bankruptcy for 5 years in a 5-year plan in Chapter 13. Best case scenario, you're in Chapter 7 for 6 months. Once the debt is gone, the judgment really has no validity anymore. Is it still a piece of paper? Sure it is. But if you wipe out the underlying debt, where's the forceful effect of that judgment? There is none. It's gone. The debt's wiped out. Now what happens? Bad debt can stay on your credit report for 7 years. I just told you that a judgment can stay out there for 20. If you wipe out a debt in bankruptcy, the debt will still show on your credit report, but it says 0 included in bankruptcy. Can you rebuild your credit after you file bankruptcy? Absolutely yes. So in the meantime, if you have a debt out there that you owe, it's going to stay on your credit report for 7 years. Let's say you missed 90 days or you missed 3 months of mortgage payments. Credit score dips down. That bad information on your credit report is going to stay there for 7 years. If you file bankruptcy, you could wipe it out potentially in 6 months to a couple of years, whichever it is. And then you've got opportunity to rebuild your credit. Well, I'm thinking you can rebuild a heck of a lot of credit in 7 years and be much better off after you file bankruptcy. A lot of people are shocked when I tell them that, and I explain it to them as this way. I'm looking at the law and what the Fair Credit Reporting Act says. It says creditors can put things on there for 7 years. I'm also looking at the game, and by the game I mean the credit game, which you're part of. And if you're a middle-aged young person, you're saying, hey, Carmen, I want to buy a house again. I get that. I want to know what your goals are because it's different if you're 35 years old or if you're 75 years old. A person who's filing bankruptcy and they're 75 years old, they don't really care about rebuilding credit. They probably have their house and their car and they don't really worry about buying a new house in the future. Different agenda. But the 35-year-old is very concerned about it. And when I tell them, look, you can go through this, you can do this, you can do this, or you can file bankruptcy, and they're like, how come that seems to be the best option? I don't know. I'm just saying to meet your agenda, to meet your goals, you want to do X, Y, and Z. And if X, Y, and Z leads you down the road of bankruptcy, it's something you seriously need to consider. And the reason why is you only live once, as far as I know, and your financial future depends on the decisions you make today. If you make financial decisions today and you say, I'm going to use the bankruptcy tool, fantastic, but stick with it. Use the bankruptcy, get done with it, and then focus on the future. And that's really where the advent of the book club came up. It's like, hey, we're helping people through the process, and then we're kind of leaving them alone saying, read our blogs, watch our TV show, but we're not really giving them the tools they need to succeed going forward or the opportunity to find the tools that they need to go forward. So I said, okay, that's fine. I think that's a great idea. It's something I did in my past. I know a lot of people in our office are reading different books and saying, hey, how about this article? Or even passing around articles on, 401ks, IRAs, stuff like that, saying, hey, here's options for you. So I think it's great that people are out there actively getting engaged in this, educating themselves. The information's out there, we just need to get it. So from that perspective, I really want to say thank you for the question because that's something that I deal with on a daily basis, and I don't think I've ever talked about it on the show. So yeah, when you're thinking about it, foreclosure it's scary out there for creditors who want to give you credit in the future because they see that word judgment, and they all go into Panicville saying, oh, I can't, the guidelines don't let me give credit to somebody who's got a judgment. Okay, so good question.